Peace and blessings, everybody. It is your girl Shay Marie. I'm back for another video, and the reason I am bringing you this video today is because I wanted to just share some information with you that I have been researching that I know a little bit about. But I just wanted to talk to you today about things going on in the world that I feel that you should know about. And the reason I feel that you should know about these things is because number one reason is mainly because I care about you guys. I care about my people. I care about people in the world and what's going on with people, and everything that is happening to us. It's affecting me just as much as it has been affecting you since we've been living here in America. So I wanted to share this information with you so that you can be up to date and know what's been going on and how um, you can move forward and with your life and building and creating your own realities, and just knowing the decisions that you need to make going forward. So with that being said, I'm going to read this article. It's from a person that I've been following for a while. The name of the blogger is Beach Broadcast. So if you ever want to check them out, you definitely can. But Beach Broadcast made this article today about the Gesara Part 16 Act. And I haven't spoken really to you guys about Gesara or Nesara, but I have been posting a lot of information about Nesara on Facebook, a lot of videos, just a lot of, like screenshots of things. I did post the Nesara Act that you can go to and read for yourself, and I'll actually post that in the description area of this video so that you can definitely go and check that out. But I'll go ahead and get started with this read. It says Nesara Gesara, it's global. The emphasis of this article is focused on Gesara. There are several reasons why. It begins with tremendous proof of worldwide activities for respective governments from different countries to offer a stimulus during this COVID crisis. According to USTPO, coronavirus is a man-made virus created by the corrupt CDC during Bush Jr. years, 2003. Albeit the coronavirus was a scare tactic to close down the economy recommended by two doctors, not economists, you guys. Dig that keyword, they're not economists, they're doctors. And they recommended that the government closed the economy down with this coronavirus scare. So this tactic was led to various discoveries of fraudulent reporting of actual coronavirus cases. Hospitals are bribed to classify deaths as coronavirus related. There was a virus that a Harvard scientist brought to Wuhan, China. Wuhan allegedly released the virus to create a public global outcry. However, did China intentionally do this to classify their inhuman acts by starving and caging their own people to death? Hence, a virus will hopefully eliminate the narrative of their corruption of human abuse. That's a good question that we have to ask. Who signed the executive order on seizing assets of anyone with human abuses? President Trump. President Trump has signed many executive orders. However, an anon uncovered many more orders that pertains to worldwide orders. So I'm just going to click on this and we could just review some of these orders. But as you can see, there's an executive order on blocking property of government in Venezuela, Nicaragua. There's Venezuela again, executive order on blocking the property of persons involved in serious humane rights abuse and corruption. That was in 2017. Another one in 2019 in Syria. Here's Mali, Venezuela again. More executive orders on budgetary impact statements. This was in 2019 for 2017, 18, and 19. So as you can check, you guys, I'm going to leave the link to this article for you to check out. You can definitely go check that out yourself. But let's check out this article here. Executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights or abuse. And let's just read a little bit of this. This was December 21st, 2017. So this was actually as soon as Donald Trump hit office, you guys, in 2017, he got to work, as you can see here, bringing these people down. And it says, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution of the laws of the United States of America, including the International Emergency Economic Powers Act 50 USC, the National Emergency Act, the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act, Public Law 114 through 328, the Act, Section 212 of the Immigration of Nationality Act of 1952, a section of 301, a title of 3 United States Code. I, Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, find that the prevalence and severity of human rights abuse and corruption to have their source in whole and substantial part outside the United States, such as those committed or directed by persons listed in the annex to this order, have reached such scope and gravity that they threaten the stability of international political and economic systems. Human rights abuse and corruption undermine the values that form an essential foundation of stable, secure, and functioning societies, have devastating impacts on individuals, weaken democratic institutions, degrade the rule of law, perpetuate violent conflicts, facilitate the activities of dangerous persons, and undermine economic markets. The United States seeks to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the United States from abuse by the same person. I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security foreign policy, the economy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. I hereby determine and order Section 1. All property and interest in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States or that are or hereafter come within the United States possession or control of the United States person of the following persons are blocked and may not be transferred, paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt in. The person listed in the annex to this order. Any foreign person determined by the Secretary of Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General. A. To be responsible for a complicit in, or to have directly or indirectly engaged in serious human rights abuse. To be a current or former government official or a person acting on or behalf of such an official who is responsible for or complicit in or has directly or indirectly engaged in corruption, including the misappropriation of state assets, the expropriation of private assets for personal gain, corruption related to government contracts, or the extraction of natural resources, or bribery, or 2. The transfer or the facilitation of the transfer of the proceeds of corruption. C. To be or have been a leader or official of 1. An entity, including any government entity that has engaged in or whose members have engaged in any of the activities described in subsections 2A, 2B, 1, or 2B, 2 of the section related to the leaders or official tenure, or to a entity whose property and interests in property are blocked pursuant to this order as a result of activities related to the leaders of or official tenure, or to have, or D, to have attempted to engage in any of the activities described in subsections of this section, and any person determined by the Secretary of the Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General. So you guys, I just wanted to read that briefly. You guys will definitely have access to this. I'm going to continue reading this article. I hope you guys are following. If not, just stick along with me, and you will eventually catch why this is important and why this is actually good news for the people of America. So blocking so how could a president of a country have this much power? Has the president been working on Gesara or a version of Gesara since he took office? He may be. How perfect, as we just saw, just to go back to answer that question, as we just saw with that act, that act came out in 2017, and that's when he was elected into office. So how powerful is the Defense Production Act? It is so powerful that when Trump uses it, the companies must comply. Chook Chook tells me it's Nesara on steroids. Here are the companies he's compelled so far: General Motors, General Electric, Hill-Rom, Medtronic, ResMed, Royal Philips, Gesara Medical, and 3M. And according to the sources of this video, what happened is Trump has actually utilized all of these companies, and actually to be able to get the necessary medical machines that the hospitals needed and things of that nature. So that's how powerful he is. When the Democrats shut all of that down, he was actually able to go ahead and get this done. So Lawfare blog gives a great interpretation of the act. So we could just read over this. What's in Trump's executive order on the Defense Production Act? This was from March 2020. So on March 18th, President Trump issued an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act, DPA, to prioritize the production of much-needed medical equipment and supplies to combat the novel coronavirus. This follows a March 13th letter signed by 57 House Democrats requesting the president to invoke the 1950 Act to begin mass production of supplies needed to address the ongoing coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 pandemic. As the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, notes, with the decrease in exports from the countries affected by the virus and an increase in demand from medical professionals, certain manufacturers of the personal protective equipment, PPE, such as masks, eye protection, and isolation gowns, have found satisfying the increased volume of orders challenging. In the light of the public health challenges, the DPA has taken on a renewed significance. Recently, the Congressional Research Service published a report detailing policy considerations in employing the act in the face of the current pandemic. However, the new executive order does not so much directly invoke the DPA as it creates the conditions under which the administration can later employ its authorities. Essentially, it classifies health and medical resources needed to respond to the spread of COVID-19 in a way that authorizes the administration to later have private businesses prioritize government contracts over other contracts. The order also delegates broad authority to the Secretary of Health and Human Services, HHS, to later employ certain powers of the DPA. Before diving into the particulars of the executive order, it is useful to review the DPA to provide some context for the authorities the administration is now choosing to exercise. And you guys can definitely read that. You'll have access to this article. So it goes on to say in the article, yet some companies may want to get out of the U.S. for fear that the DPA may be used on them. My understanding is that the DPA can be used on USA entities. United States of America is a corporation. This is what I want you guys to understand, that United States of America, and I've been posting this a lot, the United States is a corporation, and America of the United States is a corporation registered as a Delaware corporation. This search result shows a few different results, and if we click on this search result, you guys, well, let's just zoom in here. This search result, as you can see, it has several corporations under the United States name. And so these are all the corporations, well, these are not all of them, but these are several that are owned by the corporation of the United States. And I'm going to read an article to break that down in a second so that you can more understand what exactly is going on. Is President Trump dismantling the corporation and turning it into the constitutional government we were supposed to live by? Why did corrupt politicians incorporate the United States? Is it to give a new set of rules or its own version of the Constitution that is left out of the public eye? That's the question that you all need to keep in mind. And I'm going to read this article. So remember that it just talked about changing the Constitution, right? So there are actually two constitutions. And so we're going to read about the two constitutions on this video. And this will actually help you understand a little bit more. So this is from the National Library of Alliance. And at the top, it has a scripture from Psalms 89:14. So the Bible, you guys, from what I've been learning, the Bible is really the scriptures of our foremothers. And the scriptures are about us, you guys. The Bible scriptures, especially in the Old Testament, those scriptures are about the people here in the Americas. And so let's just go ahead and read. It says, justice and judgment are the inhabitation of thy throne. Mercy and truth shall go before thy face. That's Psalms 89:14. And so it says here the two U.S. constitutions. The two constitutions in the United States first was suspended in favor of the Vatican Corporation in 1871. Vatican Bank meeting. Pope meeting with the board of directors of the Vatican Bank. Since 1871, the United States President and the United States Congress has been playing politics under a different set of rules and policies. The American people do not know that there are two constitutions in the United States. The first penned by the leaders of the newly independent state of the United States in 1766. Now, you guys, this is the actual constitution that is for the people. It's ruled by the people, and this is the constitution of the republic that was created in 1766. So on July 4th, 1766, the people claimed their independence from Britain, and democracy was born. And for 95 years, the United States people were free and independent. That freedom ended in 1871 when the original Constitution for the United States for America was changed to the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, guys, notice the all caps. Note, I want you to pay attention to the all caps, you guys, because that's really important. As you can see here, the first Constitution, it says it's in lower caps, Constitution for the United States of America. That was our original Constitution. It was in lower caps, and they changed it to a business. They incorporated it and made it a business, and it became a corporation in all capital letters. And I want you to keep that all caps thing in mind, because I have a lot to share with you on this video. The Congress, I'm sorry about that. Oh, shoot.
The memory is full and
I'm sorry about that. Okay, the Congress realized that the country was in dire financial straits, so they made a financial deal with the devil. International bankers in those days, with the devil, which were international bankers in those days, the Rothschilds of London. So these were the so-called devils, who were the international bankers, the Rothschilds of London, thereby incurring a debt to said bankers. The conniving international bankers were not about to lend the floundering nation any money without some serious stipulations, so they devised a way of taking back control of the United States, and thus the Act of 1871 was passed. With no constitutional authority to do so, Congress created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia. Hence, this is when the Democratic Party comes into play, you guys. And the Democratic Party, the demons who we have been voting in office ever since 1871, they have been playing us, you guys. With this passage of the Act of 1871, a state within a state called the District of Columbia, located on 10 square miles of land in the heart of Washington, was formed with its own flag and its own independent constitution, the United States secret second constitution. So the secret constitution, you guys, in Washington is the 10-mile square radius, that where the White House sits, you guys. That is all that the United States is really governs. It governs their corporation. They do not govern this country. They do not govern us, but they govern us because we have given them the power to govern us. We have signed over all of our rights to this corporation, you guys, and they have been playing us with this corporation, and they have been hiding our natural birthrights from us that came with the Republic Constitution, you guys. And this is what I need you to understand. So I'm going to keep reading. The flags of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars, each symbolizing a state within the 3-city empire. The 3-city empire consists of Washington, D.C., London, and Vatican City. London is the corporate center of the 3 city states, and controls the world economically. Washington's district.
Okay, well, in 1921, a group of workmen.
Sorry about that, you guys. Okay. Washington's District of Columbia City State in Washington's District of Columbia City State is in charge of the military, and the Vatican controls it all under the guise of spiritual guidance. Although geographically separate, the city-states of London, the Vatican and the District of Columbia are one interlocking empire called Empire of the City. The Constitution for the District of Columbia operates under tyrannical Vatican law known as Lex Fori, local law. When the Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporation known as the United States and the corporate government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act has unlawfully allowed the District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution of the United States and in total disregard of the best interests of the American citizens, of the American people, you guys. Obama linked to Vatican. Listen to this, you guys. POTUS Obama, who's also his real name, you guys, is not Barack Obama. POTUS Obama at the Vatican corporate headquarters. POTUS is the chief executive president of the Corporation of the United States, operating as any other CEO of the corporation, governs board of directors, cabinet officials, and managers. Senator Congress Obama, as other before him, is POTUS, operating as a vassal king, taking orders once again from the City of London through the Royal Institute of International Affairs, or RIA. The Illuminati, founded by the Society of Jesus or Jesuits, the largest Roman Catholic religious military order headed by the Black Pope, created the Royal Institute of International Affairs in 1919. The American equivalent to the RIA is the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR. The RIA and CFR set up roundtable groups based on the King Arthur myths. I'm sorry, you guys. What did the Act of 1871 achieve? The Act of 1871 put the United States back under British rule, you guys. We are under British rule, which is under Vatican rule. The United States people lost their independence in 1871. The Constitution of the United States of America is the Constitution of the Incorporated United States of America. It operates in an economic capacity and has been used to fool the people into thinking it governs the republic, but it does not. Capitalization is not insignificant when one is referring to a legal document. This seemingly minor alteration has had a major impact on every subsequent generation on Americans. What Congress did by passing the Act of 1871 was create an entirely new document, a constitution for the government of the District of Columbia, an incorporated government, you guys. You have to understand this. We're being ran by a business, you guys. This is not a government. This is not our government. This is not a government for the people, by the people. We are under the guise of a corporation. We are under the rulership of the British government, you guys. Instead of having absolute and unreliable rights guaranteed under the organic constitution, we the people now have relative rights or privileges. One example is the sovereign rights to travel, which has now been transferred under corporate government policy into a privilege that requires citizens to be licensed drivers. So technically, you guys, they've made us have to be licensed to drive when we have the right to travel anywhere we want, you guys. So what they did was they turned driving into a corporation by making you have to take out a license to be able to drive, you guys. This is what they've done. And they've been doing this in every way possible, in every aspect of our lives. So I'm going to keep on reading so you'll understand more what's going on. One example of the sovereign rights to travel, which has now been transferred under the corporate policy into a privilege that is requires citizens to be licensed drivers and have passports. So, and that also too, you have to have passports to to travel out of America, out of the United States. If we want to leave the country, we got to have a passport, right? By passing the Act of 1871, Congress committed treason against the people who were sovereign under the grants and decrees of the Declaration of Independence and the organic Constitution. The Act of 1871 became the foundation of all the treason since committed by government officials. As of 1871, the United States isn't a country, it's a corporation. In preparation for stealing America, the puppets of Britain's banking cabal had already created a second government, a shadow government, designed to manage what the people believed what was a democracy, but what really was an incorporated United States. Together, this chimera This two-headed monster disallowed the people all rights of suzerainty, you in your sovereignty. The USA is a crown colony. The U.S. has always been and remains a British crown colony. King James I is not just famous for translating the Bible into the King James Version, but for signing the first Charter of Virginia in 1606, which granted America's British forefathers license to settle and colonize America. The, the charter guaranteed future kings, queens of England. The charter guaranteed future kings, queens of England would have sovereign authority over all citizens and colonized land in America. Do you hear that, you guys? It gave England kings and queens authority over us, and it colonized the land. So they stole our land and they took authority over us like we were some animals, when we are supposed to have dominion over this land. You guys, this is our land. We came from this land, and this is what I need you guys to understand. After America declared independence from Great Britain, the Treaty of Paris, signed on September 3rd, 1783, was signed. The treaty identifies the King of England as Prince of U.S., Prince George III, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick and Lunenburg, Arch Treasurer and Prince Elector of the Holy Empire, etc., and of the United States of America, completely contradicting premise that America won the war in independence. We didn't win, you guys. Britain won. England won. Article 5 of the treaty gave all Britain estates, rights, and properties back to Britain. It is agreed that Congress shall earnestly recommend it to the legislatures of the respective states to provide for the restitution of all estates, rights, and properties which have been confiscated belonging to the real British subjects, and all of the estates, rights, and properties of persons, residents, and districts in the possession on His Majesty's arms, and who have not borne arms against the United States, and that persons of any other description shall have free liberty to go to any part or parts of any of the 13 United States, and therein to remain 12 months unmolested in their endeavors to obtain the restitution of such of their estates, rights, and properties as may have been confiscated, and that Congress shall also earnestly recommend to the several states a reconsideration and revision of all acts or laws regarding the premises, so as to render the said laws or acts perfectly consistent not only with justice and equity, but with that spirit of conciliation which on the return of blessings of peace should universally prevail, and that Congress shall also earnestly recommend to the several states that the estates, rights, and properties of such last mentioned persons shall be restored to them, they refunding to any persons who may be now in possession the bona fide price where any has been given, which such person may have paid on purchasing any of the said land, rights, or properties since the confiscation. And it is agreed that all persons who have any interest in confiscated land, either by debt, marriage, settlement, or otherwise, shall meet with no lawful impediment in the prosecution of their just right. It is becoming increasingly apparent to American citizens that government is no longer being conducted in accordance to the Guys, sorry about the interruption. I'm going to pick up from Americans. Americans still cling to the naive belief that such corruption is exceptional and that most of the institutions of society, the courts, the press, the law enforcement agencies, still largely comply with the Constitution and the law in important matters. They expect that these corrupting forces are disunited and in competition with one another, so they tend to balance one another. Mounting evidence makes it clear that the situation is far worse than most people think. That during the last several decades, the U.S. Constitution has been effectively overthrown, and that it is now observed only as a facade to deceive and placate the masses. What has replaced it is what many call the shadow government, created with illegal passing of the Act of 1871. It still, for the most part, operates in secret because it controls, because its control is not secure. The exposure of this regiment and its operation must now become a primary duty of citizens who still believe in the rule of law and in the freedoms which this country is supposed to represent. Posted by World Truth TV. So, you guys, that's this article about the two constitutions. I'm going to keep reading the article. What is happening worldwide and how does it affect us? China news. Is China buying BlackRock? Is China buying BlackRock? Real clear politics. You may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you, Leon Trotsky is reputed to have said. The same. Real clear politic articles. Does BlackRock fear the inevitable? Are they fearful of exposure of President Trump's use of the DPA? So I'm just gonna read this a little bit. Is China buying BlackRock? You may be interested in the war, but you may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you. The old adage goes, the same is true of China. Financial strategist David Goldman writes in a recent essay, China doesn't want to rule you. It wants to assimilate you. It was and remains utterly ruthless. Its goal to own the control points in every sphere of economic life. Goldman recounts dinner with the Communist Party of China cadre instructor whose daughter had just graduated from top American university. He asked if I could help her get a job on Wall Street. China knows that Wall Street is the gateway to America's central nervous system. Finance controls capital. Wall Street is a conduit of highly valuable information about all sectors of the economy. It has privileged access in corridors of power in Washington, D.C., and Wall Street can be bought. In their book Red Capitalism about China's banking system, authors Carl Walter and Fraser Howey write of the role of Wall Street in the privatization of China's state-owned enterprises, SOEs, selling billions of dollars of shares in the initial public offerings that went off like strings of firecrackers in the global capital market. All of these companies were imagined up, created, and listed by American investment bankers. The creation of the new SOEs out of the dross of the old SOEs is the work of Wall Street bankers who provided the lipstick, the mascara, the pedicure, the hair weave, so that they closely resemble Western corporations and can be sold at high prices, handsomely profiting the party and its friends, and of course, Wall Street banks. As the Indian stockbroker Shankar Sharma has noted, in just one Chinese bank IPO, the government paid Wall Street $200 million. Research reports by Wall Street banks have always been up for sale to the highest bidder, and nobody knows this better than the Chinese. There has to be someone on the buy side to pay for all this Wall Street minted SOE paper. Nearly 40% of the BlackRock managed iShares Emerging Markets ETF is represented by the Chinese paper. How much of it is pure dross is hard to say, as U.S. regulators inform of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, established by the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, are prevented from overseeing audits of these companies. That has rung alarm bells with the SEC, which has oversight responsibility for the board. On May 4th, SEC Chairman Jay Clayton warned about the consequences of the inability of U.S. regulators to inspect for compliance and enforce U.S. securities rules and regulations. Such investing entails significant disclosure, financial reporting, and other risks. Clayton said risks that mainstream investors should better understand. When the lipstick comes off the pig, it's not a pretty sight. That happened to two companies in BlackRock's emerging markets ETFs on only last month. On April 2nd, China's Luckin Coffee announced that some of its employees, including its chief operating officer, fabricated 2.2 billion yuan, $3.1 million in sales from the second quarter to the fourth quarter of last year. The SEC has announced that it is launching a probe into the apparent fraud. 5 days later, Tall Education Group and K-12 tutoring provider announced that it had uncovered that one of its employees had inflated sales by forging contracts. Reports suggest that the fraud could have been taking place as far back as 2016. So you guys, I'll stop reading that article. You guys will definitely have access to that as well. And I'm just going to continue reading this article. The Nesara. So, picking off from where I left off at, HKEX CEO resigning. Yes, the CEO of Hong Kong Stock and Future Exchange is resigning. This article is from May 7th, you guys. Hong Kong Exchange CEO Charles Lee to step down amid protest economic headwinds. IMF announces debt forgiveness to 25 of the poorest countries. IMF debt forgiveness for 25 poorest countries. Contributors are U.S., UK, Netherlands, China, and Japan. Why would the U.S. contribute towards helping other countries for debt relief? USA has already implemented a $3 trillion stimulus to the U.S. More on that below. The UN is struggling to get world leaders on board with their COVID plan. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres remarked in this article. A clearly frustrated Guterres told reporters Thursday that instead of solid leadership to fight the pandemic, each country went ahead with different strategy, increasing the risk that the virus would not disappear but rather spread and then return. It is obvious that there is a lack of leadership, he said. It is obvious the international community is divided in a moment where it would be more important than ever to be united. Not even Angela Merkel was on board with the UN plan because in President Trump's GOP meeting, President Trump references he spoke with Merkel. I believe it was his way to telling the world that he's helping Germany. President Trump and President of Zimbabwe meet. The meeting happened after the top executives of Zimbabwe Consolidated Diamond Company resigned. So the executive of the Zimbabwe Consolidated Diamond Company resigned, you guys. There have been a lot of CEOs resigning since the COVID-19 started. Let's keep reading. New Zealand is in. Wahoo! Go New Zealand. New Zealand joins U.S.-led COVID coalition. Newsroom about New Zealand. So let's read this article. New Zealand joins U.S.-led COVID coalition. With tensions between the U.S. and China exacerbated by COVID-19, New Zealand's decision to join an American-led alliance could raise eyebrows with Beijing. New Zealand has quietly taken up a place with the U.S.-led alliance working on a joint response to the coronavirus pandemic, with some suggesting that the country's role within the coalition may attract the ire of China. This week, Reuters reported on efforts from the United States to restructure global supply chains, which have often relied on Chinese manufacturing in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. The news outlet quoted an American official as saying the U.S. was pushing to create a multilateral alliance of trusted partners dubbed the Economic Prosperity Network, which would develop common standards on areas ranging from digital business, energy and infrastructure to trade, education, and commerce. The report cited comments made by the media on April 29th by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo about work between the U.S., Australia, India, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, and Vietnam to move the global economy forward and restructure supply chains to prevent something like this trade disruption from ever happening again. Sources spoken to the newsroom confirmed the existence of the alliance, but said that Reuters report emphasized the trade-related components of discussions, which also covered health initiatives, development, aid, and other areas of importance to the COVID-19 response. So you guys, you can see Trump here shaking hands with the president of China, Xi Jinping. So you guys can definitely check out that article. There's a lot more to read here. I'm definitely going to leave this article for you guys to read in the description area. I just want to get to the good news, you guys, for the most part. In the Nesara Part 4, we already shared how Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip broke their royal protocol to allow President Trump to walk in front of them and inspect UK military. This is a huge sign that President Trump has quietly taken control over the countries. The control will lead to greatness. Does everything point back to President Trump? World leaders view President Trump's USA as the world leader. The dive is so deep, and there are many other tentacles such as the global reset, gold standard, rainbow currencies, and more that I will broadcast on separate broadcasts. This is giving you an overview of this transition to greatness really is. For those in other countries, remember even Q says this is worldwide. The Great Awakening is worldwide. This is from Q, you guys. A message from Q. President Trump, our military, and the Justice Department still have much more to do before the greatness happens. So while that is happening, let's continue to support President Trump, what he is doing, plus all of his public accomplishments, plus all of his private swamp draining in less than 3.5 years. We truly have a president that is looking out for in the best interest for the people of the world. And he really is, you guys. Trump has been doing an amazing job. And I really didn't understand politics and really wasn't into politics until Trump got in office, you guys, back in 2017 and the beginning of 2018. I began seeing him. I began questioning some things. I began to pay more attention to what was actually going on with politics. And I saw that Trump was actually making huge changes. He's actually done a lot to help the black community, or the so-called black community, as we say. Because we're not black, you guys. We are American Indians, and we're indigenous to this land. And I just want you guys to know that we're indigenous to this land. No matter what nobody tells you, we're not black. We're American Indians. And I need you guys to do your research on that and start talking to your elders and learning about that. But Trump has been doing an amazing job. And he's been doing, he's doing the prison reform. He's brought more jobs back into the communities. He's also cut out a lot of taxes. Trump has been doing as much as he possibly could. He's been doing a lot, you guys. And he's been doing it single-handedly, not really by himself, but he's been doing it by himself because the people that he has in office with him, they have been portraying him, you guys. And you guys have to see the writing behind the wall, what's going on. Mainstream media is owned by these corporations that we discussed earlier in this video. And they are the ones that are leading you in the wrong direction. They are leading you and trying to brainwash you into hating Trump, into hating things that he has allegedly done. But you guys, mainstream media is good at editing videos and making things look the way that they may not be, you guys. So I just want you to understand this. I want you to just take this information and start doing your own research. Start looking into this thing deeper, because there's more than meets the eye. There's more to this thing than what the media is telling, what you're seeing on the news. You have to dive deep, you guys. There are good things happening for us, you guys. The main things that I wanted to just briefly share with you is to start getting you some gold and silver, you guys. Start getting you some gold and silver and some cryptocurrency. It is important. If you want to be free, it is important that we start freeing ourselves. I don't necessarily believe, I'm not a Trump supporter. I just want you to know that. I'm not into politics and things of that nature, but it's important to be knowledgeable about these things, you guys, because being knowledgeable about what's going on in the world helps you to prepare. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do things the way of the world or the way the government or society was designed for you to do, but it helps you to be knowledgeable and helps you to know how to maneuver and change things that you need to change as we grow and evolve in this world, you guys. So I just wanted to share this information with you, get you some gold and silver. I have several amazing opportunities that will allow you to save your finances, save your money, you guys. Because that's one thing that we didn't talk about in this Nesara Act, is that we're going back to, as we did mention about the global standard. We were able to mention that. As you see here, we're getting to a global reset, and then there's going to be a global standard and rainbow currencies. Rainbow currencies are going to be the cryptocurrencies, you guys. So I just want you to know that there is a change taking effect, and you gotta get involved with creating your own reality, creating a better better future for yourself and your family, for your children, creating a legacy for your children. We can definitely create our own realities, you guys. We don't have to depend on the government. We don't have to depend on any of this, you guys. I just want you to be knowledgeable. Get silver and gold. Click on the links in the description area about gold and silver. I'll have in the description area for you to take a look at. See how you can get your hands on some silver and gold. And there are opportunities that you can come along and be wealth ambassadors with our companies. And you can help other people do it the same thing, and you can make a lot of wealth. You can make a lot of free gold and silver and cryptocurrencies with these opportunities that I'm providing to you guys. They're amazing opportunities. We are changing the world with the technologies and the things that we have in place with these companies and ecosystems that we're creating on our own, especially with Karatbars. Karatbars is we have an entire ecosystem that the people will benefit from, not just the main people at the top of the company. We benefit from this in every aspect of this ecosystem, you guys. So check out the links in the description area that I'll leave in the below this video. And I'll be back to share more information with you. I'm probably going to be sharing more information with you guys as much as possible. Hopefully every day I'll be reading this information, and we'll be doing some video reviews and going over some things, and we'll go from there. Until next time, you guys, it's your girl Shay Marie. I love you guys. I want to see us all prosper and grow and live in abundance. And I love you. And you guys have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll be back for the next video.